overshot the price of cattle. So 200 NFTs are actually probably about twice the price of a cow. Okay. But you're not providing the land, you're not providing the feed, you're not giving vaccinations, nothing. And if your cow dies, it gets replaced. Okay. So you're basically buying an immortal cow here. And the like I said, the fees go towards the feed and everything. And what's it called? The NFTs that we launched on your platform are actually at a discount, So half of those
Yeah.
NFTs sold. So there's 200. Half of those NFTs go into the staking pool to ensure that there's always, funds being circulated through that, regardless of how the business is doing.
But I mean, you're running it like a business. So the reality is, if I go to the supermarket and I buy a steak, it costs me what, 20, 30 bucks. So I buy it 20 bucks. You get a lot more than 200
Exactly.
steaks out of a cow. So you're essentially paying. You're paying for the feed of the cow. That, like you said, all of the everyday essentials that a cow has to have. But you're also just buying it almost from like a shop. Whereas if you buy the cow, then that's, of course, it's going to be slightly discounted. I mean, you have to understand. Like for me, I get it.
Exactly. And it's funny that you say that because the individual NFTs are called stakes.
Yeah,
So
perfect.
you stake your stakes. So
No, that's perfect. And in terms of um, going forward, how many cattle can you have on the ranch?
I've got the capacity to hold about 100 here, and then we'd have to expand. I've got some folks that are selling some land down the road I'm looking at right now. But as far as we got a lot of cows to buy before we get to the point to
Yeah,
where we need to expand.
one
So
of the things I love about Tom's development with the million bit homepage is that you can actually. So I buy my little plot, I build my house on it, but I can actually redesign it. So I love that, and so it's future proofing itself. And I love the fact that you can grow, you can adapt, because at the moment we have very few people on the blockchain, and when they do come in, it's the projects that are building now that I believe that are going to be growing and getting better and better, that are going to bring those individuals on. It's not the ones that are flash in the pan, I don't think. I think the ones with real future proofing are the ones
we're
that are
only
going to go
limited by our
forward.
imaginations, man. All the tools
100%.
are out there for us to use.
No, I agree 100%. So, one of the things that I wanted to talk about in terms of, have you, because it's a cow, have you stuck a royalty on your NFT?
I have. You are you talking about somebody else sells the cow to someone else?
Correct.
Yes, there is a royalty, and it's pretty high.
Well,
So it encourages people not
but
to do
that's the
that.
one thing I love about it, though, is because obviously I knew there was a royalty because I saw. But the reality being is that the one thing that NFTs offer that perhaps real world art doesn't, and it's something that I'm trying to change with Doodle on Base, is if a real world artist, someone like the Shiloh, he creates his painting, takes him 1,000 hours, he sells it to Joe. Joe buys it for 50 bucks. Joe then realizes what he's got and he sells it for 5,000. Shiloh gets nothing. Whereas with an NFT or with a cow, on
Right,
sale value
right.
brings you value. And I love that. And so, the question, and I'll put it out to everybody who's here as a speaker, um, how does tokenization help assist with those royalties? I mean, how is
Can you
tokenization?
repeat?
Do you see it assisting you or hindering you in the future? And that's open to everybody who's here and wants to speak.
Can you repeat the question? I kind of lost you there.
So the question is, with royalties being something you can do with NFTs, but not necessarily something you can do with real world art, but you can now if you tokenize it. What do you think that, because there's always going to be pros and cons, sort of from your perspective, what do you think the negative and the positives are going to be with royalties going forward from an NFT perspective?
Well, I think for artists in particular, like say you're like my last project was, if you're a musician, you got a song out there and it's getting put out into rotation or whatever, and people are buying, selling it. You're going to get a kickback from each buy and sell, and like that's why musicians are so fucking broke nowadays. It's because everybody can
Yeah.
steal it. You know what I mean? So I think that decentralized art is going to be the play for all artists. You know what I mean? Because the days of able